What kind of person hides behind a mask to terrorize a family? The question burned in my mind as I stood in my backyard, the weight of my shotgun cold in my hands, staring down the three figures who had just shattered the peace of my home. It was a quiet Saturday evening in our sleepy suburban neighborhood, the kind where kids ride bikes until the streetlights flicker on. My twins, Emma and Ethan, were playing in the treehouse I'd built last summer, their laughter floating through the air like a melody. My wife, Sarah, was inside prepping dinner, the smell of roasted chicken drifting out. Then, without warning, the harmony broke. A scream Emma's, high and piercing, cut through the dusk. I dropped the rake I'd been using and sprinted toward the sound, my heart pounding like a war drum. There, at the edge of our property, stood three figures in dark hoodies, their faces obscured by cheap plastic masks, the kind you'd see at a Halloween clearance sale. One of them, a heavy-set woman with a voice like gravel, was barking orders at my kids, pointing a flashlight at the treehouse. "Get down here, you little brats. You're breaking every rule in the book," she bellowed. Ethan, my brave little man, was trying to shield his sister, but his voice trembled as he yelled back. "We didn't do anything. I didn't think, I just acted." I ran inside, grabbed my shotgun from the safe, and stormed back out, the weapon raised but not aimed. "Get away from my kids," I roared, my voice shaking with a rage I didn't know I had. The masked trio froze, their flashlight beams wavering. The heavy-set woman stepped forward, her mask a grotesque smile that didn't match the venom in her tone. "You're in violation, mister. That treehouse is unapproved, and we're here to enforce the rules." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These weren't random thugs, they were HOA officers, the self-appointed overlords of our neighborhood, hiding behind masks to intimidate my family. Our community, Willow Creek, was known for its pristine lawns and suffocating rules. But this was a new low. The HOA had been a thorn in my side since we moved in 2 years ago. They'd fined us for a mailbox that was half an inch too tall, sent passive-aggressive letters about my truck parked an hour too long on the street, and even complained about the color of our curtains. But scaring my kids, that crossed a line I didn't know existed until that moment. I lowered the shotgun slightly, my voice steady but ice-cold. "You've got 5 seconds to leave my property, or I'm calling the cops." The woman, who I'd later learn was Karen, the HOA president, laughed a sharp, grating sound that made my skin crawl. "Go ahead. Call them. We're within our rights. You'll be the one in cuffs." Her confidence unnerved me, but I wasn't backing down. I glanced at Emma and Ethan, their faces pale with fear, and something inside me snapped. I wasn't just protecting my kids. I was fighting for every family in this neighborhood suffocated by these petty tyrants. As the standoff stretched on, I noticed something odd. The other two figures, a wiry man and a younger woman, were shifting nervously, their masks slipping slightly. They weren't as bold as Karen, and their hesitation gave me an idea. I'd installed security cameras around the property after a string of package thefts last year. If these clowns thought they could hide behind masks, they were about to learn a hard lesson. "Smile for the cameras," I said, pointing to the small black domes mounted on the garage and porch. Karen's posture stiffened, and for the first time, her voice faltered. "You're bluffing," she spat, but I could hear the doubt creeping in. I didn't respond, just held her gaze, the shotgun still in my hands. The other two exchanged glances, and the man whispered something to Karen. She waved him off, but the crack in her armor was clear. I seized the moment, Emma. Ethan. Get inside, I said, keeping my eyes on the trio. My kids scrambled down from the treehouse and bolted for the house, Sarah meeting them at the door with a look of panic and fury. I backed toward the porch, never turning my back on Karen and her cronies. This isn't over, she hissed. But they retreated into the shadows, their flashlight beams fading into the dusk. Inside, Sarah was shaking as she hugged the twins. What the hell was that? She whispered, her voice thick with fear. I set the shotgun down and pulled up the camera footage on my laptop. Sure enough, the high-definition lenses had captured everything: the masks, the flashlight, Karen's unmistakable silhouette. But as I reviewed the footage, a twist hit me like a punch to the gut. One of the masked figures, the younger woman, had a distinctive tattoo on her wrist, a small rose, visible when her sleeve rode up. I recognized it instantly. It belonged to Lily, our neighbor's daughter, a quiet college kid who'd babysat for us a few times. Why was she mixed up with Karen? My mind raced with questions. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just about a treehouse. There was something bigger at play, and I was going to find out what. I spent the next hour calming Emma and Ethan, promising them they were safe. But their wide eyes told me the fear would linger. Sarah and I stayed up late, replaying the footage, piecing together what we knew. The HOA had always been overzealous, but this felt personal, targeted. I remembered Karen's smug face at the last community meeting, her lectures about maintaining property values while glaring at our slightly weathered fence. Was this her way of asserting control? Or was there something else driving her? By morning, I was ready to fight back. I uploaded the camera footage to a private cloud, made copies, and started digging. A quick check of the HOA bylaws confirmed what I suspected: their inspection was illegal. They had no right to enter our property without notice, let alone harass our kids. I called a lawyer friend, Mark, who agreed to look into it. Sounds like they're overstepping big time, he said. Give me that footage, and we'll have them by the throat. I also reached out to a few neighbors I trusted, sharing snippets of the incident without revealing too much. To my surprise, I wasn't alone. Tom, who lived 2 streets over, said Karen had threatened to fine him for his kid's basketball hoop. Maria, a single mom across the cul-de-sac, mentioned getting anonymous notes about her garden. The pattern was clear: Karen and her crew were running a reign of terror, and the masks were their way of keeping it secret. But they hadn't counted on my cameras or my resolve. I decided to confront Karen at the next HOA meeting, scheduled for the following evening. I spent the day preparing, printing stills from the footage and drafting a statement with Mark's help. I wanted to expose her in front of the whole neighborhood, but I had to be smart. Karen was cunning, and I couldn't underestimate her. That night, Sarah stayed home with the kids, who were still shaken but insisted they were okay. I kissed them goodnight, promising I'd fix this, and headed to the community center. The room was packed, the air thick with tension. Karen sat at the front, her usual smug smile plastered on her face, flanked by her 2 lackeys, wiry man and Lily, who looked uncomfortable, avoiding my gaze. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, and waited for the right moment. The meeting started with Karen's usual spiel about rules and compliance, her voice dripping with self-righteous authority. I sat in the back, clutching the folder of evidence, my pulse racing. When she opened the floor for comments, I stood, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. I have something to share, I said, holding up the printed stills. The room went silent as I walked to the front, placing the images on the projector. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the screen lit up with clear shots of the masked trio. Karen's bulky frame unmistakable even behind the cheap plastic smile. Last night, these people trespassed on my property and scared my kids half to death, I said, my voice rising. They claimed to be HOA officers enforcing rules, but they broke every law in the book. Karen's face turned scarlet, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. This is slander, she sputtered. But I wasn't done. I played the audio from the footage, her grating voice echoing through the room, accusing my kids of violations. The crowd murmured, some nodding in recognition, others looking shocked. Then came the twist I hadn't planned for. Lily, the young woman with the rose tattoo, stood up, her hands trembling. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Karen made me do it. She said if I didn't help, she'd report my mom's house for code violations and get us evicted. The room erupted in chaos. Neighbors shouting, some at Karen, others in disbelief. Lily's confession was a bombshell, revealing the depth of Karen's manipulation. She hadn't just bullied family-ish coerced vulnerable people into doing her dirty work. I felt a pang of sympathy for Lily, caught in Karen's web, but my focus stayed on the ringleader. Karen tried to regain control, slamming her gavel and yelling about order. But it was too late. The truth was out, and the room was turning against her. The confrontation reached its peak when Tom, the neighbor with the basketball hoop, stood and shared his own story. Then Maria spoke up, holding up one of the anonymous notes she'd received. One by one, neighbors added their voices, a chorus of frustration and defiance. Karen's allies tried to defend her, but their arguments crumbled under the weight of the evidence. I handed the floor to Mark, who'd joined me at the meeting. He laid out the legal case: trespassing, harassment, abuse of power, and announced we were filing a formal complaint with the county. Karen's face went from red to ashen, her empire of petty rules collapsing before her eyes. By the end of the night, the board voted to suspend her pending an investigation, and she stormed out, muttering threats no one took seriously anymore. The fallout was swift. The county launched an investigation, and the HOA was forced to overhaul its leadership. Karen resigned in disgrace, her reputation in tatters. Lily came to our house the next day, tearfully apologizing to Sarah and the kids. We forgave her. She was as much a victim as we were. The neighborhood began to heal, with new board members who actually listened to residents. But the real victory wasn't just exposing Karen. It was what came after. Emma and Ethan, inspired by the ordeal, started a kids' council with other children in the neighborhood, presenting ideas to make Willow Creek a better place: more playgrounds, fewer pointless rules. Their courage, born from that terrifying night, reminded me that even the smallest voices can spark change. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about a treehouse or a power-hungry HOA president. It was about standing up for what's right, protecting the people you love, and refusing to let fear win. My shotgun never fired a shot, but my cameras fired the truth. And that was enough. We reclaimed our home, our peace, and our community. The masks were off, and Willow Creek was free.